You're listening to Blue Note Buzz, the St. Louis Blues podcast by fans for fans. Thanks for joining us today. This is episode 3 of the Blue Note Buzz podcast. This is a follow-up to the previous episode when I discussed grades for goalies and defensemen. In this episode, I'm going to be going through forwards and analyzing their performances last season compared to expectations going into the year. I had just thousands of messages, people pleading, begging for my opinion on what the grades would be for our top 6 forwards after that last video, so I'm a people pleaser, so here I am dishing out that information here. We've got not too many players to go through, but I do kind of want to put them under the microscope a little bit more detailed than I might have the defensemen, because these are all the big name players that we know and love. So starting off on the first line, we have center Robert Thomas. He had 70 games played last season, 21 goals and 60 assists for 81 total points. He was a plus 20 on the plus minus. I went ahead and gave Robert Thomas an A grade. We all know Robert Thomas is elite at this point, and this season I think just added to that mountain of evidence that that is the case. He is somehow still underrated by the overall hockey community. I don't know how, but I have noticed he's starting to get a little bit more recognition at the end of last season, and during the off season I've seen some discussion about him and Suzuki in particular being kind of underrated. So people are finally starting to talk about him, say things that we Blues fans have known for a very long time. He is a guy that makes every other player on the ice better. He is really a master of creating dangerous plays on offense, and he always has a really high level of awareness of where all of his teammates are, how they're moving, and how possible offensive plays and goals could develop. He is, I think, one of the best passers in the league, period. Some of the passes he made last season were just insane. You know, I'm watching on the TV and I can see where everyone is, and I couldn't even see the lanes that he was passing through. So I don't know how he has that 360 vision, but he is truly an elite passer. He's also great defensively. Robert Thomas is a full both sides of the ice player. He really developed this in the last few seasons. Particularly, he is a top-tier two-way player. He has a really high hockey IQ, which makes him dangerous on both the offensive and defensive end to other teams. And I think most of the season last year, it was pretty clear that the vast majority of the Blues offense flows through Robert Thomas. When he was out for a couple weeks, the Blues had a horrible slump, really couldn't find offense anywhere, constantly playing on the back foot. Anytime Robert Thomas is out on the ice, I am excited and I'm paying attention because I know there is the opportunity that he could do something really incredible at all times. Robert Thomas is the heart of our offense, and yeah, like I said, everything flows through him. So in those 70 games that Robert Thomas played last year, the Blues averaged 3.2 goals per game. In the 12 games he missed, admittedly, kind of small sample size, but I think it's still relevant. He had that ankle fracture on October 22nd, and in those 12 games, the Blues averaged just 2.5 goals per game. So almost a full goal per game average less with Robert Thomas out, and I think that shows just how much he brings to the table. I think Robert Thomas is a legitimate star in the league. He did get the All-Star nod a couple seasons ago, so I think some people have noticed that, but I don't think he gets enough credit. I truly believe that he's a legitimate star. He's a top 10 center in the league. I might put him top 7 or 8. He is truly a great player, and I think we are incredibly lucky to have Robert Thomas in the Blue Note. I see him as being a career Blue, and I really hope to see him with the C on his jersey whenever Schenn departs. So after Schenn is out, I do love Schenn, great captain. But once he inevitably leaves, my vote would be for Robert Thomas to get the C. I think he acts like a captain. He leads the team. He is exactly what you look for. So that sums up Robert Thomas. Gave him an A. We move on to Pavel Buchnevich. He played 76 games last season, 20 goals and 37 assists for 57 points. He had a plus minus of plus 10. I gave Pavel Buchnevich a C plus for last year. He had a bit of a turbulent season. He started at center, which he was clearly uncomfortable with, pretty ineffective and out of place, and you could tell I feel like we weren't taking advantage of his strengths with him playing center. So they finally moved him back to the wing, and he settled in, and by the end of the season, I thought he became the Buchnevich that we are familiar with. He was playing tough, physical. He was not afraid to get in people's faces. He was winning 50-50 pucks on the boards. He was making great passes in front of the net. And that's what I expect out of Pavel Buchnevich. Now, based on the numbers, he did not have a bad season at all for most players, but I have really high expectations for Buch. I think he can be a really great player. I think he can be one of our best players easily, hence why he's on the first line. But I really expected more from him, especially considering a couple seasons ago, I thought he was probably our best forward for a good third of the year. He is a guy that he has that potential, and I really want to see him meet that. So that's why I gave him a little bit of a lower grade. When Buch is at his best, he really is a master of creating plays. He's a great passer. He extends that offensive zone time with his puck handling. And of course, he is a deadly scoring threat himself in his own right. So he really is a Swiss Army knife kind of player. He can do it all. He's super well-rounded, great defensively, he's physical. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Buch and how he plays next year. Again, like I said, very high expectations. I think Buch at his best is really dangerous. And I think if Buch is playing well, the sky's the limit for the team. Moving on, we have the youngin' Jimmy Snuggerud. Only played 7 games last year. 1 goal and 3 assists in those games, a plus-minus of 0, just even. For this, I gave him a B+. I went ahead and included Snuggerud in the top 6 forwards here, despite not playing that many games last year, because he is going to be a top 6 forward moving into next season. He is the guy. He was the most anticipated prospect, and I think he's a huge X factor for this team. In the limited time he was on the roster, he was such a hugely anticipated player, which is a lot of pressure, I'm sure, but he absolutely rose to the occasion, and he proved he is more than worthy of a permanent spot on that number 1 line. He's incredibly skilled with handling the puck, along with his skating ability. He also has a great eye for passing lanes, both finding players to pass to and going into passing lanes to allow for passes to him with some scoring chances. He seemingly needed no time to transition to the NHL because he did take a couple extra years in college. So he played for Minnesota, spent a couple extra years there developing his game, getting better, and I think it really showed. He basically was NHL ready from the second he got on the ice, and I think he is a really great player. He really has an incredible shot. His snapshot from the slot is so fast, so accurate, and so unexpected at times. It's really hard to defend. You could see in the 7 games he played in the regular season and in that series against Winnipeg, he beat Connor Hellebuck a couple of times with that snapshot. His wrister is absolutely disgusting, and I am really looking forward to seeing how he plays the full season, especially being on a line with the playmakers like Robert Thomas and Buchnevich. That is so exciting to me. These 2 guys, they at times were criticized last year and the year before for overpassing at times. Robert Thomas and Buch will play hot potato with the puck, pass up golden scoring opportunities to try to find that perfect scoring chance, and a lot of times it resulted in not even a shot on goal. So having Snuggerud on that line, this is a guy that will take those shots. I think that combining him with those great passers in Robert Thomas and Pavel, I am seriously looking forward to the kind of production that Jimmy Snuggerud has. I think it's going to be really impressive. I think he is, in my opinion, an early favorite for the Calder. I could see him having a breakout year, a true star season for a rookie. That is my expectation next season. So his expectations are really high once again. Hopefully he can rise to those, meet or exceed them once again. All right, moving on to the second line, we have center and our captain, Brayden Schenn. You know him, you love him. He played all 82 games last year, put up a modest 18 goals and 32 assists for 50 total points. He had a plus minus of +3. For his season, I gave him a B minus. Now, a lot of this is due to intangibles, which I will get into. I would be remiss if I did not mention his very poor start to the season. His start was so bad that a vocal portion of the fan base, and not a small portion, were calling for him to be traded, demoted to a lower line, at the very least, lots of people calling for him to be the third line center, or even lose the C on his jersey. So people were saying that he is not captain material, which I completely disagree with, but his start was undeniably bad, and it reached kind of a boiling point where people were just tired of it. They wanted to move on. Thankfully, the hiring of Jim Montgomery completely changed that. Monty put together the Schenn, Holloway, Kyrou line, and it was not only by far the most productive line for the Blues offensively, but it was statistically a top 10 line in all the NHL. So that was a truly elite line, scoring goals at a rate that matched lines like McDavid and Draisaitl. This was truly an elite line across all of the NHL. True props to Monty for putting them together. It worked perfectly. After that line was formed, they stuck together for basically the rest of the season. Schenn's experience and his really high awareness on the ice, along with his high hockey IQ, was a perfect combination with the speed demon of Holloway and Ruzzi. His numbers improved drastically when that line was put together. Despite a really slow start, he finished with a respectable 50 points over the course of the season. Now, the main thing with Schenn, I believe, is his intangibles. His leadership, what he brings to the team outside of just, the numbers, the scoring, is what stood out the most for him. Guys like Ryan Suter, that's a guy that's been around. He's been on every team, I think, in the West. He could not stop talking about how good of a captain Schenn was. I mean, this is a veteran who said that he wanted to play another year at age 41 just because the locker room presence of Brayden Schenn was so great. The culture that he has cultivated in the Blues locker room is second to none, I believe. This is a guy that gets physical when needed. He fights when appropriate. And he really does everything he can on the ice to protect his players, motivate his team, even when everything else seemed to be not going well for him. He wasn't getting past the goalie. He wasn't able to put the puck in the back of the net. He was not producing the way that I think most people expected of him. So that's something that's somewhat out of his hands. What is in his hands and what he can control was his effort, his physicality, and the way that he motivated the team. And I think he brought that up to 110 when he was going through that slump, and I think it stayed that way after he got out of the slump. And I believe that what he brings to the team beyond the numbers, beyond being the center for one of the best offensive lines in the NHL, are those intangibles, that leadership. Can't say enough good things about what Schenn brings to the table. Absolutely love the guy. He rejected a trade that I believe Doug Armstrong forged near the end of the year with the Maple Leafs because he knows that there is a lot of work still left to be done and he wants to see it finish through. You gotta respect that. All right, our penultimate forward that we're going to look at is the breakout star Dylan Holloway. Played 77 games last season. He had 26 goals and 37 assists for 63 total points. He put up a plus minus of plus 21. For this performance, I gave him an A+. Dylan Holloway, of course, was acquired in the off-season offer sheet from the Oilers. We signed him to a 2-year contract with an average annual valuation of just under $2.3 million. The Blues only had to give the Oilers a third-round pick as compensation for signing him because he was a restricted free agent, which might be Doug's best move at the Blues. Holloway was not getting the opportunity to prove himself at the Oilers. The Oilers did not have the cap space to sign him, and the Blues offered him more money and a chance to prove himself. And I think it worked out for both sides. He is a guy that is always going 150% effort every single shift, constantly looking to make plays. He's a guy that is always smelling for blood. If he sees defensemen bobble the puck back in the other team's zone, he's going to make you pay for that. He's always looking to score, always looking to make those plays and push the issue offensively. I have always said that he is a guy with the hustle of a fourth liner, but he has the skill of a top six forward. That kind of combination is incredibly potent and dangerous on the ice. Along with that, he has such great great synergy with Kairu. It was really awesome to see. They make each other so much better. I don't think they should ever be split up. At times, these two guys seemed like they were reading each other's minds on the ice. Some of the passes and plays they were making away from the puck were really beautiful. And when they are on the ice together, they are the two fastest skaters from either team most of the time. These are guys that the only people that can keep up with them are each other. And Holloway, I think, is a legitimate star. We should do everything we can in our power to keep him in St. Louis. I don't care what it costs. Unload the bank on him. I want to lock him down long term because he's only going to get better. From what he's shown, he's going to be, I believe, a real superstar. I could see him having 40-goal seasons, point per game seasons easily. So I really hope that we can extend him either during this offseason or as soon as next season ends based on his performance next year. Last up, we have Jordan Kyrou. He played every game last season, 82 of them, put up 36 goals and 34 assists for 70 total points, and had a plus-minus of 23. For this season, I went ahead and gave Kyrou an A. He did stay healthy, which was huge because injuries really plagued our stars this season. Guys like Dylan Holloway, Robert Thomas, Parayko, Broberg, all these injuries just really plagued our year. But Kyrou staying healthy kept a serious offensive threat on the ice every game. He led the team in goals and plus-minus, which is what I think we expect out of a guy like Kyrou. A guy who is as talented of a scorer as him. That's what we want to see out of him. That's the expectation. I mentioned this already, but he and Holloway play so well off of each other. Kyrou's impact on the ice really noticeably declined after Holloway was injured and was no longer playing with him. I think next year we need to just wrap both these guys in layers of bubble wrap. Make sure that neither of them get injured, because the downside of them having that great synergy is that when one of them gets injured, you're not just losing their productivity, but they're bringing down the productivity of the other guy. Kyrou has clearly focused on developing and rounding out his game. He was a much more complete player this season, and his defense was great. You know, he's not going to be a guy that wins best defensive forward in the league or anything, but he has turned into a guy that used to be only offensive minded to really a full two-way player. He is absolutely more than serviceable on the defensive end. You can tell how much work he has put into that. A moment that I always think about when I'm talking about how Kyrou has developed is during a game, probably my favorite game from last season. We were playing the Red Wings at home, going for 10 straight. He scored a goal to force overtime with less than 30 seconds left, and then in overtime, he bobbled the puck and gave it away to a Red Wings player. I don't remember who it was. That player picked up the puck, and it looked like they were going to have a 2v1 with the chance to put away that game and end our winning streak. When Kyrou laid a check on him, knocked him down, the crowd was more stunned, I think, than excited. There were mostly gas in the crowd. Everyone online was going crazy. You know, who put on Kyrou's jersey? Who was that? But it was Kyrou, and that shows how much he has really become the player that everyone has been saying they want out of him, that aggressive, defensive, and offensive-minded guy. Kyrou gets way too much hate for some reason from the Blues fan base. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's lingering animosity from the comments about Berube, but I think the hate against Kyrou really needs to stop. Like, I don't understand why he gets so much more than anyone else for basically no reason. He had a really great year last year. He's developed the way that everyone says they want him to. So yeah, if you're one of those Kyrou haters, lay off the guy. He's a great player. He had a 36-goal, 70-point season last year, like I mentioned, which is good. It would be a career year for most players in the NHL, but that is not his ceiling. I want to see him get at least a point per game season next year, 82 points or more. I think that if he's on that line all season long with Holloway, that's not only easily attainable, but I think that is the expectation from fans going into next year. He is a seriously talented player, like we all know. He has true superstar potential, which is why so many teams have been expressing interest in him in the offseason. I think I've read anywhere from 5 to 10 organizations that have been trying to pry him away from us. Thankfully, Doug Armstrong has decided against it. Obviously, I don't know what the offers were, but I can't imagine that the return would be worth losing not only our best scorer, but a guy that is developing and getting better in the way that he is. So I'm super excited. Kyrou is really a huge part of our true core, and I would be really disappointed if we ever let him go. I am really excited to see how he continues to develop going into next year. I can't wait to see what all of these guys do. If he can stay healthy, if all of the guys I mentioned can stay healthy, which is obviously a tall ask, but you know, if they can stay mostly healthy, I think the sky is the limit for this Blues team. When you have a top six like the guys that we have talked about, you're going to be a real offensive threat, and you can't win games if you don't score, no matter how good Binnington's playing. He's probably not going to put one in the back of the net himself, so need to give some support to him and Hofer. And with the team that we have set up on those top two lines, we absolutely will be. These guys are all incredibly skilled. Like I mentioned, the sky's the limit for this team. I think playoffs is the minimum expectation because of just how stacked these 6 guys are on the top two line. All right, that is going to wrap it up for the grades for the top 6 forwards from last season. I plan to release one more episode before the season starts, just going over and grading the bottom 6 forwards from last year, very similar to this episode. So I will probably be releasing that here in the next couple of weeks. We are really closing in on the beginning of the season, just like a month and a week away. Once the season starts, I will start putting out weekly episodes where I go over, analyze, and discuss the games that the Blues played that week. So usually 2 or 3 games. I will go through them, anything that stuck out to me, things that I think are worthy of discussion, any news related to the team during that week. Going to be tackling all of that. Plan to release an episode every weekend, doing that for the foreseeable future. I cannot wait for this season to start. I'm so excited. This team is going to be a real threat, I think, to come away with the Central maybe. So that will just about wrap things up. Thank you guys for listening, and go Blues. I will see you next time.